I'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Mr. Ferris, can you lead that?
Sure. All stand. Salute. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Move on to item 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes.
I'll move on to item 2, good things. Anybody have any good things? Aye.
If
Aye.
nobody else does?
I've got one.
Oh, go for it.
After 10 months, I was finally able to go out camping. It was the smoothest camping trip I've ever had this past weekend. Everything just worked. It was nice. So,
And a recovery as well, right?
yes, yes, yes.
Good. Do you want me to?
Oh,
do you
no,
want me to go too?
I wanted to hear yours.
Sure, okay. So 2 of my daughters and their families have gone back east to Maine to visit 2 of my other daughters and their families. And so I've been receiving this bombarding of photo ops and clips of their excitement, and it's just really heartwarming to see your kids and grandkids interacting in that way. Just good stuff.
Nothing better to get those cousins all together.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. We will move on to item 3, approval of minutes of the regular and the special meeting of May 15th and the special meeting of May 28th. Any changes? Those minutes will stand. Move on to item 4, programs and presentations. Item 4.1, measure AA series general obligations bond sales results. And we have government financial strategies.
Let's see.
Keith, how you doing, sir? Lori, good to see you again.
I'll move these microphones a little bit. I'm not going to stand the whole time. I'll make it a little bit closer for you guys. We'll see about that one. Okay, got it. Thank you. Good evening, President Scott, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, public, staff. As we'll recall, back in May, we were able to sell our $21 million of our general obligation bonds. And tonight, we have Lori and Keith, Lori and Keith from GFSJPIA. To give us a presentation on the Measure AA Series General Obligation Bond Sales and the results and the next steps. So, good to you guys.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. And I want to again thank you for being a member of GFS JPA, where the commitment you've made to yourselves and the other members is to be guided by best practices, ethics, and transparency. And the situation from beginning to end has played out in all of those values. And I really want to compliment the board for your efforts in having the highest ethics and transparency about everything that we're doing, and supporting staff in bringing the best practices to how we've done this entire thing from the beginning of conceiving of the measure all the way to the sale. And then, of course, we've had lots of great help from the business staff and the superintendent's office. And I just have to say, it's amazing the quality of the staff here. It's teamwork, it's digging into the details, it's making sure we problem shoot, it's solving problems before they happen, it's calmness when there's a problem that does happen. And all of that sounds like I want to tell you about problems, but that's not why we're here tonight, because we've had nothing but a fantastic result. And we're absolutely thrilled. But if I keep talking, I'm going to throw in an anecdote and a joke, and it's going to take longer. So Mr. Weaver's going to take over, and he's going to be very efficient with our time.
Tell them about the school you visited.
Oh, yes. I had the opportunity to attend the June 3rd Richmond school ribbon cutting virtually. And had I received an invitation more than 2 hours before, I might have come in person, but I was so glad that at the last minute, April thought, let me send Lori a text. I think that's probably what happened. And I said, you know what? I'm going to put it on my computer while I'm working, and I got to watch the whole thing, and I can tell you, for anybody else who was attending virtually, you could see everything. You could hear everything. It was moving. It was inspiring. And I really felt the power of this community. And one of the things that Keith and I talk about every time we come is that I haven't met anybody who lives in this community that doesn't love it. And that love and support for each other, for the students, for what the schools can do, I felt it right through YouTube. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate virtually. And, you know, I might have been wearing my comfortable shoes.
Okay, so some really good news to share with you tonight on our Measure AA bond sale results. I just wanted to start by touching a little bit on our process and then getting into the results and wrapping up with some next steps. So you're aware our process does include a number of best practices as recommended by the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA. This included competition and managing costs and taking a number of steps to try to get the best result that we can financially for the district. And part of our process included a credit rating. The district historically had received a credit rating from 2 rating agencies. One was from S&P, or Standard & Poor's, a very good credit rating of A+. And then we also had an even better credit rating from Moody's of AA3. And for cost efficiency purposes, we picked one. We picked the best credit rating to go with, which was from Moody's, and they affirmed our credit rating at that very high level of AA3. And they included a number of reasons, among them sound financial position, history of conservative budgeting, and prudent fiscal management. So definitely compliments to the board and the leadership team for doing a really nice job in terms of keeping our financial position sound and our budget healthy. And then more broad.
Take 1 second.
Yes.
Let that soak in.
Yes. Very nice compliment from Moody's. And then in addition, more broadly, we have a stable economy here locally as well as a growing tax base. So some nice recognition from Moody's. And then our bond sale was on May 8th, 8:45 in the morning. We did used an internet platform to notify bidders, published a notice in an industry newspaper, and really tried to get the word out to encourage banks and underwriters to bid, with the idea that the more bids we get, the more competition we have, the better the results. This is a benchmark interest rate index that we've shared with you before since prior to the election. And you can see prior to the election, this interest rate was hovering about 3.9%. During the election, it went up to 4.2. When we presented here in February, it was around the same level, but then it ramped up pretty significantly, all the way up to over 5%. And we had budgeted for interest rates to go up, but that budget, you can see, was just below that 5.16% mark. This happened in April. You may recall the news in April was around federal policy around tariffs. It just caused a lot of jitters in the marketplace, differing from expectations. And so this index went up pretty dramatically, which may be cause for concern. But I'll also share with you that the volatility in the marketplace made it difficult for the market indices to actually measure the market. And so we have 2 different indices that we're now sharing with you, intended to measure the same market. And you can see that at the beginning of last year, these indices were right on top of each other. But then they began to diverge, and they really diverged significantly in April. And if you look at our budget for volatility, the lower index, the lower interest rate index, is below budget. And based on our research, when we track our bond sale results, the lower interest rate index does a better job of tracking. And so the point being that this lower interest rate index seemed to be a better measurement of the market. And based on this measurement, we were actually doing quite well with respect to our budget, meaning that the market interest rates were lower than what we budgeted for. And we also budget for the district's credit rating. And this interest rate is being shown in green. It had also gone up over time, but this interest rate also remained well below budget. So from a budget standpoint, we were looking good as we were approaching the bond sale. Also what happened is that during the week of the bond sale, there was a relatively good news hitting the market. And you can see the S&P 500 here was doing quite well. The Fed was holding interest rates steady. There was some good news on trade and tariffs. So this was actually really positive for the financial markets as we approached our bond sale day. So that was actually some really nice news. So that was sort of the backdrop to our bond sale. And then getting into the results, we ended up getting 5 bids. And you can see we had a couple firms from the Midwest, a couple firms from New York, and one firm from Florida. A nice mix of names, both big and small, from both regional and more national type firms. So we were very happy to see these 5 bids. Didn't have anybody from California, surprisingly enough. Now, the winning firm was a firm called Jeffries, and they proposed a winning interest rate of 4.62%, and that was excellent, very excellent interest rate. The reason it was excellent is because we budgeted for an interest rate of 5.2%. And so to come in at 4.6 was much better than what we had budgeted. And you can see the difference in bids between the different firms. The second place bidder, Baird, was a very close second place, less than $10,000 behind. And then it ranged all the way up to over $800,000 in expense. So we think this is a nice demonstration of the value of competition, from getting firms with different cost proposals and being able to select the firm with the lowest cost. And then also some background is that this is a little different than what you might be familiar with in terms of mortgage. In a mortgage, every payment that you make has the same interest rate, but when it comes to bonds, different payments may have different interest rates. And so you can see the interest rates here. And then I'm also showing you how those interest rates compare to budget. And what I like to point out is that our budget interest rates are in blue. And you can see that we budgeted for higher interest rates over longer time frames. And the winning bidder actually proposed lower interest rates over longer time frames. And so that was a really nice result, and it was how we were able to get a winning bid that did so much better than budget, because the longer the time frame, which is the most impactful for us in terms of our payments, ended up having the lowest interest rates. And then on the upfront cost side, so we were planning to issue $21 million of our Measure AA bonds, and that is what we did. $21 million were issued. And you can see we had budgeted for a variety of upfront costs. The underwriter's discount, which is the fee from Jeffries, came in quite a bit lower than what we had budgeted for. Bond insurance also came in quite a bit lower than budget, and then our other costs also lower than budget. So just across the board, costs came in less, which was a nice outcome. In addition, we didn't budget for a premium, but this was included in the bid from Jeffries, and that goes into what's called the interest and sinking fund deposit. But that's held by the county for the benefit of our taxpayers. And so nice outcome for them. And then bottom line, cash for facilities projects. We budgeted for $20.4 million. We ended up with $20.6 million. So a little over $200,000 additional into the facilities program than what we've been planning for. So a really nice outcome for our facilities program as well. Now, from the taxpayer perspective, you may recall that pre-election we were budgeting for a tax levy of just below $60 per 100,000 assessed valuation. We're right on target. In fact, even a little bit less than projected. The average prior to the election was about $59.50. We're currently estimating it'll be closer to $59.30. So tax levy is a little bit less than we had budgeted prior to the election. So nice outcome for our taxpayers that we're estimating tax levies to be a little bit lower. So in terms of next steps, I just want to start with congratulations. We think it was a really nice outcome for the district, for our facilities program, for our taxpayers, just all around excellent results. The funds were already received by the district on May 22nd. They're ready to spend on our facilities projects. And then our next bond sale is planned for spring, summer of 2027. So I want to thank you, and happy to take any questions or comments.
Any questions or comments from the board? I just want to thank you guys. Your service has been extraordinary.
Oh, wonderful.
You've kept us in the loop the entire time, and and you dumbed it down to us, for us, so we understood the process, which was cool when we got through some of that technical stuff. But truly appreciate you showing up in person, too.
Very good.
It's very nice to see you guys.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from staff or community? This was just for informational purposes?
Yes.
And safe travels?
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
Thank you again.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lori. Good seeing you again.
Thank you.
We will move on. Actually, we have no public hearings. We'll move on to item 6, report and communications. 6.1, reports from members of the board.
I actually had the opportunity to watch the Murray online when I was back in DC, and it was extraordinary, that whole production from beginning to end, and how nice it was to see the community involved and all the state and federal, officials and the base and everybody. So I think it was really, it was a nice culmination for a huge project for us, and it was great. It was great to be able to watch it remotely, like she was saying. So that's all I have. Thanks.
No, and it's nice to see that and hear that other side, because you don't think about that as it's going on in person. And it's funny, we attended a great event. I knew it was a big campus, but you don't realize how big it is until now that they've got the field and everything out there. Now it's just even bigger. So, but yeah, very nice facility. The presentation was outstanding. Any further?
Wonderful, yeah,
yeah,
it went
any further?
clockwork, very smooth.
Nope. We will move on to
I'd like
item
to say
2,
a couple
superintendent
things.
report.
Oh, Robert
Dr.
has.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Robert, my
Oh,
bad.
sorry.
You-
I'd just like to thank our administration and Brian and April for doing being the MC, and also the choir. That was an awesome production by the choir, the students at the grand opening. They really did that was a nice touch to have them sing. And also the graduations. I thought all the graduations that we had last week, they just went off without any problems. And again, administration did an awesome job of conducting those. And I thought the students were very well behaved on every single graduation that we were at. So that was just an awesome job. So thank you.
Thanks, Robert. We'll move on to item 2, superintendent's report. Dr. Moore.
Thank you, President Scott. So month 9 enrollment was 4,863. Last year was 5,002, so it's down 139. And as you know, we've fluctuated throughout the year. So last month we were down 183. So you can see right around at this point last year, we were starting to feel that decline. And so ended up down 139 this year from where we ended last year. Attendance for that last month was 88.1%, so we did tick up just the slightest bit. And later this evening, in the discussion on the local control accountability plan, you'll have a chance to consider approving. We have worked with our advisory committee under the leadership of Dr. Savko to identify strategies and actions to help support positive student attendance and engagement is a big part of that plan. Because we know how important this is to our students and their learning and the operations of our district. Since the last board meeting, as was mentioned, we celebrated a number of graduations, promotions, moving up ceremonies for students across the district. Summer school started this week at 2 of our sites, while other schools are having construction and other projects moving in preparation for launching of the fall. So it's a very busy summer, and it started really in earnest the day after that ribbon cutting. All the moving started, and it was queued up and ready for that. Last week, I had the privilege of joining a team from Buick STEM Academy and visiting 2 schools in Oceanside Unified School District, a STEM Academy and a K-8 school, both on Camp Pendleton on their base. And it was great to learn from a very similar situation. Schools that hadn't been magnet schools for very long, they were a year ahead of us when their district did their reconstitution and some changes there, and that was a great experience. And not only did we leave with some great ideas, but I think even more importantly, our staff left with confidence and validation because the things that they've been putting into place and planning for were very much validated by the groups that we spoke with. And I want to thank Lisa Decker, who helps to lead and coordinate that team, and our visit there was a great experience. We mentioned the ribbon cutting, so thank you very much to the board for showing up and participating. I know Mr. Johnson had prior engagements, but we really appreciate all of your support. And also our keynote speaker, Captain Van Allen, NOC WD Executive Director Dan Carreño, and our entire community, because this really was the culmination of a community project. We did just a couple of the numbers. We had standing room only with almost 270 people in attendance and almost 200 attending live online. And then since then, others have said, oh, I've been watching online or tuned in later other than the live. So it's been neat to be able to share that with so many people beyond what the multipurpose room would hold. As you know, we had planned for a much larger group originally, but with the date change and the weather change, we moved it inside, and that was a little bit limiting, so we tried to make it as broad an audience as possible. Also this past week, along with Jennifer Hayden, I've been meeting with OLDCC, and we are moving forward remarkably for the new school. We have a commitment of funding of $75 million. It's a little less than we had for Richmond, but they're balancing all of the different projects, and it's nice to have that number. We didn't think we'd have the number so quickly, but as we know what we can plan for, and so then our next meeting was immediately with the State of California Office of Public School Construction to see, okay, so what will you help us with? And that looks like about 10 million. And so we're putting all the pieces together to see what exactly we can be able to build for that STEM Academy that we're in progress for. So groundbreaking won't be for a little bit, but just wanted to reassure the community, as we've heard about the bond, we are full steam ahead and all systems go on that project. And as we move out of tonight, I'm looking forward to attending a few conferences, including a charter oversight conference, conference on impact aid, and taking some time off with family. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. We'll move on to item 3, report to the board by data. I don't see any members here. Move on to item 4, report to the board by CSEA, and they're all out on summer vacation. Item 5, communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the board to comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on an item not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law prohibits the board from taking action on items not on the agenda. If appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time for public input to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond the 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting agenda. I'll open up public comment at 6:23. The microphone's right there. Just come on up, state your name and your address. Oh, just name, I'm sorry.
My name is Billy Davis, and I'm a concerned father and also pretty outraged about what has transpired with my child. I like to go through it since I'm on the clock. On May 21st, a student inside Mr. Schumacher's classroom. His exact word was, and I quote, "I will kill you, bitch." Sorry for the language, exact words. Charlie immediately came home and told her mother and me. The following morning, she did not, or she did what we advised her and reported to Assistant Principal Wolf before school started on May 22nd. Yet at 10:30, no one from the school has reached out to us, and Charlie was left in the dark. I left work and arrived at school at 11 a.m. I immediately talked to Principal Andresen, who was unaware of this incident. Once again, it was reported 3 hours before I talked to the principal. My daughter courageously recounted the incident inside the principal's room, even though she didn't want to. And that following afternoon, Mr. Wolf finally contacted me and said that the student has been removed from class and sent home. I was aware that the situation was dealt with. He claimed that there was no video evidence because it occurred inside the classroom. That's wrong. My daughter confirmed that the threat was community outside where cameras could be viewed. The very next day, that student returned to the school. That student is in the classroom with my daughter. I do not appreciate that. So what was his punishment? A 5-hour vacation from class and a no-go list? for the upcoming lock-in. That's insufficient to me. Because during the 8th grade promotion, he was sitting within 10 feet of my daughter. At any time, he could lash out. There was no cops present. There was no security measures taken. Y'all probably saw me on the stage talking to Principal Andresen about this situation because I was very upset. Not only did he was within 10 feet of my daughter, he got the principal award for outstanding behavior. And the ending of that was, I quote, "He knows to admit when he was wrong." That action should have never occurred. When I pressed Principal Andresen about it, he said that I was overreacting and that he took precautionary measures. And when I asked him, he said, "Don't worry about it. It's not my problem." I want to be clear that there's no policy preventing to inform the parents about the measures taken to protect their child. But apparently, there is policies to protect minors when they commit misdemeanors or felonies, which is by state of California, it's at least a misdemeanor. Let me remind you, schools across this state, may I continue?
Please finish.
Let me remind you, schools across this country have tragically ignored threats like this before. Pearl High School, Sandy Hook, Parkland, Red Lake, Columbine, and even a knife-wielding minor at Monroe Middle School here in Ridgecrest on the 22nd of May when that death threat was reported. Each time these coincidences did or could have been written in blood. I refuse to let my daughter's death or blood be spilled for Principal Andresen's lessons. A 2023 review of Education Watchdog Group says that 40% of California schools administrations failed to report nonviolent threats, and that's including death threats. Some fear negative publicity, others don't want to criminalize the student. But why is that student performing these criminalized acts and they don't get punished? If you don't punish the Criminalization Act, then you're punishing the victim. You can't have it both ways. Therefore, I demand a resolution for failure to report under the state bill or Bill 906. Because the phone log right here says they didn't call, but they called for a 1322 battery. But they didn't call for a death threat? To me, that's concerning. And the knife-wielding minor is also on this call log, which is right across actually at the police station. Apologies. So I'm demanding a resolution that I want Principal Andresen terminated for failure to report. Mr. Wolf should be placed on administrative leave with no pay for 3 months if he's not terminated as well, which is also a suitable thing for me. I want somebody that guides my children that has critical thinking and common sense. That's a huge thing to me. I'm not an educated person, I'm from Mississippi, but I demand that my children be safe and well educated. They are thriving in this community, but this is an unacceptable event. I am here amongst the board to formally request all video footage that's outside Mr. Schumacher's classroom of the day of questioning. Any video or audio recordings of transcripts of relevant meetings about my daughter and that incident, and a full disciplinary record for both David Andresen and Mr. Wolf. I do not like throwing out threats. I did on that stage at the promotion. I told Mr. Andresen that I'm coming to this board and putting this information out. I do not see him. That's also concerning. This matter can end here with the action of the board and the superintendent. But I can also go farther. I choose not to and I don't want to. But it can definitely go farther because there's proof of no action taken. I thank you, and I'll take my seat or my leave.
Thank you. Seeing no other takers, we'll go ahead and close public comment at 6:30. We will move on to item 7, Educational Administration, 7.1, approval of revised local control and accountability plan, federal addendum. Well, looks like Ms. Decker is going to take care of that one.
Yeah, this is the baby one.
Yes, yes. No, I had Dr. Safko on that one, so.
Good evening, President Scott, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff and community. Tonight, I'm presenting what we call the LCAP Federal Addendum, which is a supplement to the larger LCAP. And what this plan addresses is our supplemental funds, like all of our title funds. And so every year we look at this and we update it depending on what needs to be changed. And some of the sections that I would like to highlight is the data analysis of educator equity trends. We look at both low-income and minority students and whether they're being taught with high-quality teachers. And so that's been updated. The other thing that was updated was the Title II funding now helps us work with student-centered coaching, which is something new we've added. And Title IV includes college and career readiness activities, art and music supplies for elementary schools, and some classroom presentation boards. So those are the highlights of what was changed. And so the financial implications are every year we apply for our consolidated application, which is about $2.2 million with all of those different titles. And so it is recommended that the board approve the revised LCAP Federal Addendum as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We will have a roll call vote since Mr. Campbell is out there. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Ferris? Aye. Myself, aye. That's approved unanimous. We'll move on to item 7.2, report of 24-25 California School Dashboard Local Indicators. Dr. Safko.
Good evening, President Scott, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff and community. The California School Dashboard, as you know, reports performance and progress on both state and then local indicators. We meet our local indicators by reporting through some self-reflection tools. And most of the information in the local indicator report is a duplicate in the LCAP. So you'll see the FIT reports, the teaching, the highly qualified percentage of our staff, et cetera. So it's simply required to present this as information. There aren't any actions needed, and I'm here to take any questions that you may have about our local indicators.
Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? That was an easy one. That was an easy one. We'll move on to, again, just for informational purposes, we'll move on to item 7.3.
The report was easy, not the work that we.
Well, yeah, I know. No, we saw all the backup material, yes. Move on to 7.3, approval of 25-26 school plans for student achievement. Ms. Decker.
Okay. Our school plans are the guides that each of our sites use to decide how they're going to spend their funding. And the district has always taken the district level goals and then funneled them down to the site so that we're all in lockstep. And so then the sites get to decide what they're going to spend their funding on. So tonight I'm bringing forward most of our schools because we have 2 new schools next year. So you won't see China Lake Junior High yet, and you won't see Vuig STEM yet. They'll come in the fall once they get their site councils together and get their plans together. They're working on them, but they need their site council's approval. So tonight I'm bringing forward the plans that are ready, and it is recommended that the board approve the 25-26 school plans for student achievement.
Can I just clarify? We do have China Lake Junior. We don't have High Desert School.
Oh, that's right. You're right. High Desert.
Move the recommended action.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye. That's unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Decker. It looks like you're going to be up there for the next one as well. Move on to item 7.4, approval of 25-26 agreement with High Desert Leaping Lizards for operation of expanded learning opportunities program.
The Expanded Learning Program opportunity offers before, after summer intercession support for all of our kiddos. This next year, we're going to be operating programs at all of our 7 elementaries, so we're adding Buig to the list next year. And so we partner with High Desert Leap and Lizards to do most of this program. And so their portion of the program next year will be the $2.2 million for next year. And then they're reimbursed for actual expenses as the program rolls out. So it's recommended that the board approve the agreement between Sierra Sands and High Desert Leap and Lizards for the operation of the extended learning programs for next year.
Recommended action?
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
And myself, aye. That's unanimous. Thank you, Lisa. We will move on to item 7.5, approval of the annual service plan and annual budget plan for 25-26 school year for Sierra Sands SELPA. Mr. Delbeck. Are Dodgers playing today or not?
Day off.
Good or
They're not
bad?
playing today. Yep. President Scott, and members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, members of the community, I'm here to ask for approval of the annual service plan and annual budget plan for the 25-26 school year for the Sierra Sands SELPA. I don't know how much background. Assembly Bill 602 requires SELPAs to submit an annual budget plan and annual service plan that are adopted by the local Board of Education, as required in Ed Code Section 56205. Together, these plans must identify expected expenditures and include a description of services, physical location services, and must demonstrate that all individuals with exceptional needs have access to services and instruction appropriate to meet their needs as specified in their individual educational plan. Financial implications, special education services provided by Sierra Sands SELPA are supported through a combination of both categorical special education state and federal funding, the expenditure of which is documented in these pages. It is recommended that the board adopt the annual SELPA service plan and budget plan as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community?
Just want to make one quick comment. I know we've talked several times about our participation in things like the coast-to-coast work that's done to try and lobby Congress to see that we have increased funding for special education. And I think it's important as we look at this report to notice the delta. The local contribution to this particular program is almost $11 million. And that's exactly why we do the lobbying we do, because that's a pretty significant portion of our overall budget. So just wanted to call that out.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Any further questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. I'll call for a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's approved and unanimous. We move on to item 7.6, memorandum of understanding regarding charter school oversight by and between Sierra Sands and Opportunities for Learning, Ridgecrest Charter School. Dr. Safka.
This charter petition from Opportunities for Learning Ridgecrest Campus began in the fall of 2024. And so after the required formal receipt of the petition in October, and then a required public hearing in November, and then finally at the January 16th board meeting, we agreed on a timeline, and the timeline and oversight of the charter contingent upon this memorandum. So this is somewhat of an exciting come to fruition meeting. So let's be transparent and invite our community into this kind of exceptional MOU. So the MOU has been mutually crafted, and really what it sets forth is kind of our agreements between the institutions. And so this MOU indicates that we'll visit the charter school at least once per year, that the charter school will submit the required reports and documents, that the district will monitor the fiscal conditions of the charter school, and that we hold the responsibility of notifying the state of California about any events described in Education Code 47604.32A5. The financial implications are that the revenue to the district for actual costs for oversight is set forth by statute and is currently anticipated at 1% of the charter school's revenues. It's recommended that the board approve the memorandum of understanding regarding charter school oversight between Sierra Sands and Opportunities for Learning Ridgecrest Charter School as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community?
I guess I would just comment that I agree this is rather monumental. It is the first that we ever, in the history of Sierra Sands, that we are actually providing the oversight for a charter under our own organization. And I look forward to collaborative work with that charter and seeing that the students of our valley have the options they need to get the education that they deserve. So, exciting time.
Thank you, Mr. Ferris. Any further questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. I'll call for a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to, it looks like we're there for the next one as well. We'll move on to 7.7. Approval of 2526 resolution number 01-2526, course-based independent study courses, and certify the listed course-based independent study courses. Dr. Sashko.
I wish this one was exciting, but it's not. It's a more compliance. You might recall that in April, we brought the board the recommendation to adopt Edgenuity or Imagine Learning as our course-based independent study program and school for High Desert for 7th through 12th grade. This resolution meets the requirement that the board annually certifies our independent study courses that are course-based. And so it's recommended that you approve Resolution 01-2526 and certify the listed course-based independent study courses as presented.
Move to recommend action.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? I'll call for a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Stafko. We don't have any policy review for item 8. Move on to item 9, Personnel Administration 9.1, authorization for a new classified management position, community schools program coordinator. Mr. Ald.
President Scott, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff and community. If I might, I'll take 2 seconds of opportunity to clarify what was going on in the lobby. They're shooting a promo for this year's Relay for Life. And so there are several community leaders and business owners out there, and they said they're sorry. So I told them I'd pass it along. As you recall, the district applied for and was awarded the California Community Schools Partnership Program Planning Grant, which we were awarded for the 2024-25 school years. With the grant funding, we hired a new management position called the Coordinator of Community Schools. The person in this position spent the entirety of the year developing the community school program, including the Family Resource Center and the site-based community schools. In addition, the district applied for the California Community Schools Partnership Program Implementation Grant, which would fund the community schools program in subsequent years. Although the district was awarded the grant allocation was significantly lower than had been anticipated. After careful consideration and collaborative analysis, it was determined that the position would transition from a certificated management position to a classified management position. This transition will represent a cost savings. In addition, the candidate selected for this new position will have a split position. There'll be 50% community schools and 50%, and the other 50% will not impact the grant funding. Financial implications: transitioning from a certificated to a classified director will represent a savings. It's recommended that the board approve the new classified management position, Community Schools Program Coordinator, as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson. Mr. Ferris. Myself, aye. It's passed unanimous. Move on to 9.2, authorization to hire a split classified management position. Mr. Hall. Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped one. 9.2, authorization for a new classified management position, expanded learning opportunity program coordinator. Mr. Hall.
The Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, or the ELOP, funded by the state of California, is provided for students in transitional kindergarten through sixth grade. Program aims to create a safe, supportive, and engaging environment for students outside the regular school day, focusing on their academic, social, emotional, and physical needs. The program is to be offered on all school days in an after-school session and for an additional 30 intersessional days. According to the governor's budget, beginning with the 25-26 school year, the district is moving from Tier 2 to Tier 1 service with the new requirement that all students are eligible district-wide. We've already seen growth in the number of students and families interested in participating in this program compared with previous school years. The district currently contracts with the High Desert Leaping Lizards for these services. With the shift to Tier 1, ELOP, the district intends to facilitate a portion of the program, including providing staffing and programmatic support. Consequently, it is necessary to create a new classified management position, the ELO Site Coordinator. The job description for the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program Coordinator is attached as Exhibit A. Financial implications, the ELO Program Coordinator position will be funded through the ELO grant. It is recommended that the board approve the new classified management position, Expanded Learning Opportunity Program Coordinator, as presented.
Move to recommended action.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Ferris.
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. Move on to 9.3, authorization to hire a split classified management position. Mr. Hull.
So combining those two last agenda items into one position, 50% of it being the community schools and the other 50% being the ELO coordinator. After careful review and considering all viable options, the district intends to implement both positions, but in a 50% combined capacity. The 50% assigned to the community schools program will be paid by the CCSPP grant. The 50% assigned to the ELO program coordinator position will be funded through the ELO grant. There are no financial implications that will impact the general fund. It is recommended that the board authorize the district to advertise and hire a classified management position that includes 50% community schools program and 50% ELO program coordinator as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson. Mr. Ferris.
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. Move on to item 9.4, notification of additional adjustment of salary compensation for confidential employees for the 2004, 2005, and 2025, 2026 school years. Mr. Hull.
So as you know, we've settled with all three associations, DATA, DAGA, and CSEA. We have two employee groups that are not represented by an association, one being our management team and the other being confidential employees. As is past practice, when we settle or the financial piece of a contract, we enter into what's referred to as a Me Too clause, meaning that those two groups of employees who we do not negotiate with will receive the same amount that was agreed to with the associations. That amount, as you know, is 2% one-time off-schedule payment for the 24-25 school year, an ongoing on-schedule increase of 1.25%, and a 2% one-time off-schedule payment for the 25-26 school year. The financial implications, the 2% one-time off-schedule are one-time costs and will be funded by one-time funding. The ongoing increase of 1.25% in the on-schedule confidential salary schedule will cost less than $7,500 per year and come from the general fund. So we're going to start with confidential, and we'll get to management in a minute. So it is recommended that the board approve the additional adjustment of salary compensation for confidential employees commencing in the 24-25 and 25-26 school year as presented.
Second.
We have a motion for 9495. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. Move on.
Would you read 9.5, just the?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. 9.5 was notification of additional adjustment of salary compensation for management employees. So the same information that Mr. Ald just read for our other group that is not, have a union, does not bargain for their pay raises. So we gave them the Me Too as well. Kind of lines up for item 9.6, approval of second amendment to the superintendent's contract. On April 20th, 2023, the board approved a 3-year employment contract for the superintendent. On July 18th, 2024, the first amendment to the contract was approved. The board believes there is considerable value to retaining an effective superintendent to the operations of the school district and goals of the school district board. So the board is proposing a second amendment to increase Dr. Moore's salary from $258,493 for the 25-26 school year, and includes a superintendent salary schedule for the 25-26 school year. The second amendment notes that the superintendent's salary schedule may be increased at the discretion of the board and will be increased commensurate with on-schedule and off-schedule increases provided to the employee groups. The second amendment extends the term of Dr. Moore's employment contract through the end of the 27-28 school year and provides for further 1-year extensions so long as the superintendent receives satisfactory or better performance evaluations. The second amendment provides Dr. Moore with a one-time 2% off-salary, off-schedule payment by July 15th, 2025, based on her 24-25 salary totaling $4,981 and subject to regular withholdings. The second amendment also provides Dr. Moore with a one-time 2% off-schedule payment by June 15th, 2026, based on her 25-26 salary totaling $5,170. This is a slight correction from the originally posted version and subject to regular withholdings. With the exception of the revisions I mentioned, the second amendment leaves the other terms of Dr. Moore's employment contract and the first amendment to the contract unchanged. Specifically, Dr. Moore may continue to access the medical, dental, and vision benefits available to other certificated employees. She will receive 24 vacation days per year and will be paid for up to 10 earned but unused vacation days per year. Earned but unused vacation days will be paid at the superintendent's daily rate that is in effect at the time that she makes her request for payment for those unused vacation days. She will also continue to receive reimbursement for ordinary expenses and district-paid ACSA dues. Dr. Moore will also have continued access to district cell phone and laptop or tablet. Dr. Moore will continue to receive 1 sick day per month, board-approved holidays, and personal necessity bereavement and other leaves provided to other district certificated management employees. Finally, Dr. Moore may access CSBA's Tier 1 and Tier 2 programs if the board approves her participation in those programs. Recommendation is recommended that the board approve the second amendment to the superintendent's contract as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? Have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. Looks like you're stuck with us for another year, huh? Move on to item 10, general administration. 10.1, board discussion of recommendations for travel authorization and representation at upcoming conferences. Dr. Moore.
All right, thank you, President Scott. I think this is on. So we have a protocol that requires the board to pre-authorize board member travel, and there's a number of different travel opportunities coming up. So we have all the relevant information before you in the agenda item, and have this for potential discussion and action if desired. The CSBA conference, we're already hearing that conference hotels are filling quickly, even though it just opened. We're trying to beat that rush. And that one is the one that we recommend everyone attend, if at all possible. And then second, we have the Coast to Coast, which won't be until spring, but we thought it would be nice to plan ahead. The dates are set for that in the spring of April of 2026. And then finally, we've had an interest in, once again, having a board member represent us at NAFIS. We do send staff to our NAFIS conference. There's a fall and a spring conference, but the fall one is also coming up. And so I don't think we have the exact date yet. They're working on that. They've had some recent transition of leadership, but that will be announced here shortly. And so happy to answer any questions, but this is for board discussion and potential action.
Do I hear a motion?
Well, maybe we'll have a little discussion and then form a motion after the discussion. Does that make sense? I'd like to make a couple of comments. I do believe that encouraging everybody that can possibly go to the AEC is a valuable tool in us learning how to do our job better. So I would encourage us to approve potentially all members attending that. I also believe that having one member attend NAFIS is a valuable asset, and I would like to see us do that. The variable, I think, is for Coast to Coast. The past several years, we have recommended that we send up to 2 people. I think that's probably a good plan. I think it's worked well for us before. As I mentioned earlier this evening, I think there is specific value in that. That's very easy to draw the line where the nexus to benefit is. So if we're looking for a motion, I would like to move that we encourage all and approve all to attend the AEC, fund up to 2 for Coast to Coast, and fund a single for the NAFIS.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Robert, did you hear all that?
Yep.
Any questions or comments from the board? Billy?
I mean, right now, it's just more just approving.
The number.
budget
We
in advance on the
can,
zone.
we could determine the
Okay.
individuals for those, the Coast to Coast and the NAFIS at a later time based on people's availability.
And I agree with you said, I mean, and not only at NAFIS in the past, we've seen what happens if somebody wouldn't have been there for
Yep.
NAFIS for that representation. So I agree on what, everything Bill's already said. Any further questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. I'll call for a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye, it's unanimous. Hey, Robert, I'm gonna have Bill do the 10.2, it'll be easier since he's sitting right here.
Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, whoops.
Could we talk a little bit about who, for the fall NAFIS is going to come up fairly quickly?
Sure.
And I know that we have at least one board member interested in that one. So I think that one's probably the most time sensitive. The other we do certainly have time for. Would that be possible?
Yes, yes. Who's interested in NAFIS?
I'm personally interested. I mean, I was on the
Mr.
board in the past and with Misa and Felisa and all those, so I would like to do that in lieu of going to Coast and let other people have the opportunity to do that, because that's kind of the same kind of, congressional visit, because you can go to the Hill and stuff with NAFIS as you would with Coast to Coast. So if that's the wishes of the board, I'd be interested.
Anybody else interested in attending the NAFIS? Looks like we've got one person. We don't need a vote, it's just a consensus, so.
Sounds
th-
good.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarity.
Thanks.
So. Okay, now we'll move on to 10.2, and Mr. Ferris?
Gifts to district. The following gift was received. School's First Federal Credit Union made a cash donation of $500 to be used for staff appreciation. Donations provide support to the district and have a positive financial impact. I move we accept the gifts as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from board, staff, or community? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. Move on to item 11, construction and administration. 11.1, report to the board, construction activities and issues. Mr. Moore? It's your day off? Whose day off? Do we get those?
President Scott, Superintendent Dr. Moore, members of the board, faculty, and members of the community. This is my construction update for June. It took all my self-discipline not to do a home show for the ribbon cutting. We had so many moments there. It was a constant hit. Really proud of how our team pulled together. And if you thought the campus looked great, that's because we had an all hands on deck for 3 hours before anybody else showed up, including my boss, who was sweating with everybody else too, cleaning the place up. That's why it looks so good, and I'm really proud of our team for taking care of that. I'm just showcasing the painter did a great job too. These are, we've got a 10-foot purple star here, and the school's mascot. Everything is looking professional as it goes up. This was the MP room where we had all the chairs set up and the main event happening. And I know it looks like a construction site, but those are the last of our ViewSonic view boards that were being assembled and configured to go into each of our classrooms. I'm delighted they put down RAM boards to protect our floors and met with the guys there. They knew what they were doing, and our tech department is coordinating things with subcontractors to make this seamless for our teachers as they begin the school year. Some of the biggest little things aren't even on campus. We've built a walkway from Pierce Elementary all the way over to Richmond for the kids that need to go from one community to another. That's their sidewalks from one place to the other, so kids have a safe path of travel. On Murray,
Those lights were those solar lights that we had on those?
Say that again?
Those solar lights? Right here?
Those are solar lights, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. Thank you. At China Lake Junior High, as of earlier this morning, you see the Phoenix symbol in the middle of the basketball court. That is actually in place. It looks beautiful. The front of the gym is not painted. That's obviously an artist's rendering still, and that's what it will look like. Down at the bottom, you see the change that's going to happen on the concrete monument out front, but it's happening now. They've determined to finish that before the end of our fiscal year, June 30th, so I'm happy with that presentation. Also, the DSA, the Fire Life Safety Plan reviewer, has committed to complete the safety review for our plans for adding 9 new classrooms, et cetera, to this campus, and we should have that complete by next week, which means even more of the progress moving forward as we had hoped. Excuse me. Most of my updates include pictures, but there are dozens of improvements happening every single one of our campuses during this very packed summer. Someone even has labeled it the epic summer. I can't argue with that. Everything from playground upgrades and replacements to long-delayed paint work to infrastructure improvements and asset allocation of the school's furnishings that will optimize the learning spaces for each of our schools. Every one of our schools can say, yes, we're a gem in Ridgecrest area. If you chance to come across one of our maintenance or operations team members, offer them a heartfelt thank you, because I promise they're making every effort to deliver on the many promises we've made for the coming school year as we could possibly can. And that's the update for June.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community?
I just have one question.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I thought that's okay. It's just a question, so.
So they can pick you up on the recording.
Okay, so why are we changing like mascots and all that stuff inside our schools? I mean, I understand like more students might be coming, but to be honest with you, I could care, like when I was going through school, I swapped out middle schools and stuff like that, a bunch of mascots and emblems and stuff. Nobody really cared about that, so wouldn't this be like a waste of funds?
You want to answer that question, or would you like me to? Obviously, we're combining two schools into one, and instead of having, well, you're at my school now, it's kind of a new beginning. That's why you kind of, with the Phoenix, so we combine two schools, and now we have a new school. So neither student has, it wasn't their school, it's now their school. Does that make sense?
And it doesn't in effect, but I mean, like, I can ask my kid, like, hey, do you care if you're a Jaguar or a Phoenix or, you know, a Burrow or something like that? And they're like, it's just a mascot. Man, I'm here to learn. I'm here to further my life, further my education. I don't really care what the mascot is. So I just feel like spending millions, like maybe like $1 million, $2 million on changing out basketball courts or the Burrow sign on top of the building or painting it fully black to kind of meet with the standard of the logo, to me, it's a little wasteful. Man, and then again, I'm not on the board to approve the funds, so what I have to say is like very minimal, but I at least want to bring it up because to me, my kids don't care. I can talk to other kids. They don't care. When I was growing up, I didn't care. Whether I was a Raider or a Jaguar. I understand the whole let's get together and like make everybody one thing, but if they come into a new school and they get bullied because they're from a different school, then that's more on the facilitators to knock that out for the zero bullying policy.
And I can just, I gotta use the mic too. I can say that we did go through an entire process to consider exactly what you're talking about. And there were discussions about and considerations for, is this really worth the expenditure? Is this what we really need to do? And the prevailing decision after all that discussion and after all that consideration was that for the amount of money it was actually going to cost, the district would benefit better by going ahead and making the transition. So I appreciate your comment, and I want you to know that those were comments that were included in the discussion, in the consideration when the decision was made. It just became a minority opinion rather than majority opinion.
Okay. Just
Okay?
make sure it was brought
No,
up, because
I appreciate
that's
it.
definitely,
Yeah.
I'd rather see a new baseball field because that thing needs to be replaced than a Phoenix being painted
You are
on a
not the
building
only
for $1
one who
million.
had that thought. So-
Yeah, and trust me,
Athletics
it
is
was
education as
nowhere
well.
near $1 million spent.
Oh, I understand. I don't know how all this budget
Yeah.
stuff works,
Yeah.
but I know some people bid way high to come down lower. So, like I said, y'all know what's going on behind the things. I just rather see a new baseball field for the high school than a Phoenix being painted up for.
Your point is well taken and appreciated.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I will say, under the direction of Jennifer Hayden, today was a perfect example. We had a contractor send us a proposal that turned out to be almost 3 times what we expected, and so we rejected it soundly. By the end of the day, they gave us a bid that we wanted. So we are definitely squeezing 11 cents out of every dime we have.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any further questions, comments? Again, that was just for informational purposes. We will move into the special concurrent meeting. Item number 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes.
Item 2, construction administration. 2.1, approval of second amendment to the September 10th, 2024 solar energy power purchase agreement with Luminance. Ms. Hayden.
Thank you very much. If I may just tack on a little bit more of our construction presentation by Mr. Moore. He definitely was instrumental in the things that happened on the ribbon cutting day. Principal John Klosner and his helper came by to help us out. The whole maintenance and operations team came by with every single blower they had. They really enjoyed that part. But really the people who put it together was a team of ladies who literally set it up and literally tore it down. And that was Suzanne Barker and Kristen Koster and Kim Kramer and Lindsay Mayer. So they actually get the big kudos for putting that event on that day. And it was Jeff who remembered this morning that the contract that came through too high, they told him something different in the field. So he called him on it and they respected it. So very positive. So I'm really here today to ask for approval for the Second Amendment to the September 10th, 2024 Solar Energy Power Purchase Agreement with Luminace. This contract first came up early 2024. My predecessor Pam Smith was working on this, and we had hired a consultant to assist us with this, Russell Driver from ARC. He was brought on to help us with the bid package. They did the solicitations, they got the winning bid, it was awarded to Luminace, and that agreement was approved by the board in May 2024, and it was signed in September 2024. Recently, Luminace and ARC made the district aware that per the requirements outlined in the Cal Green legislation for the state of California, the project now requires EV charging stations to be installed in any of these solar projects. That would be required by the DSA for any plans to be approved. That has to be part of it. So after recalculating the project costs, the revised estimated cost savings to the district is going from 11.6 million to a range between 6 million and 10 million. I want to give just a little bit of, little Q&A, because I had some questions about this. I wasn't here right at the beginning. And so I spoke to both Luminace and to ARC to find out some more specific details that will help you with your decision. So I asked them to tell me about that law for the addition of the EV chargers. It is the California Green Building Standards Code, and it does require charging stations, EV charging stations, whenever they put in a solar field. The law went into effect on July 1st, 2024. So I asked if we did the contract in May and signed it in September, why weren't those numbers included in that original contract? And the RFP was actually put together back in February 2024. And although the legislation went into effect on July 1st, there wasn't much clarity from the DSA on the regulations right away. So it took them time to determine what it was they actually needed to include with the project. And it wasn't a simple calculation of how many parking spaces are we going to have, and then that's how many charging stations we need to have. There was actually a power factor calculation that was presented to the contractors to use in order to determine how many EV charging stations they needed. And then, of course, once they were able to make that determination, then they were able to figure out, okay, this is how much it's going to cost to build it. And then they can redetermine what the kilowatt cost per kilowatt hour will be. So that being said, I asked them, so what exactly would our savings be now? And is there, anything else? And it was important to note that we will still be an SCE customer. We will purchase about 8 or 9% of our electricity from SCE. And the cost savings that they initially came up with for us was related on what the building costs were. And then they have to add the EV charging. But what they had also mentioned was there are several phases to this solar project related to schools. And so we've passed phase 1, we're in phase 2, and that does impact the costs and the savings that we would get. We would need to have our solar fields built by the middle of April 2026 in order to take advantage of the extra savings that comes with phase 2. Otherwise, we'll be rolling into phase 3. And there is every possibility that those rates could go up, so it's not a huge cost savings for us, but we would bring that back to the board if that is what happened. But I did speak to Mr. Driver at ARC to say, as our consultant, are you here to help us get this project done by the middle of April? And he said, yes, of course, but he'll be having kickoff meetings with us and making sure that we have a plan so that we can stay within phase two to take advantage of those savings. Then I wondered about who owns this system, and they confirmed, both Luminace and ARC confirmed that Luminace owns the system. They will put it in and they will maintain the system for the whole life of the agreement. We are only going to be buying power from them. So then I asked about how does that relate to the termination agreement and those costs that we see in that agreement? And really, a termination agreement occurs when there is a default. And for them to default, that would be that they stop managing their system and they just walk away, and there would be no termination cost. It would be if Sierra Sands Unified School District went out of business and we stopped using that and buying their power. That's when we would have to reimburse Luminace for the capital that they put into the project. So that's how that all worked. And let's see, it's really a benefit to go ahead and process this now. Of course, it is, part of the California goal to make sure that we have a lot of electricity. We wanted to make sure that they will be consistent in the charging stations that they use. We already have charging stations that we use for some of our electric buses. And so we want to have things, if possible, consistent in case we need to charge a bus at a different location or whatnot. So they will work with us on that. And let's see. And so, all of that said, the original cost per kilowatt hour savings was 17.65 cents. And the cost, not the savings, the cost to purchase the electricity was 17.65 cents to purchase per kilowatt hour. It's going to go up to 22.62 cents per kilowatt hour, which is an increase of 28%. But we're averaging right now about 30 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's likely that we will be seeing savings right off the bat. And I do say likely because, what if we put in some really grand lights or something at our football field and it's using it all up? But it is anticipated that we will see savings right away. And it would carry on at that same rate for the next 20 years. So, we respectfully request that the board approve the second amendment to the September 10th, 2024 solar energy power purchase agreement with Luminace as presented.
Recommended action.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Johnson?
I just have a couple. I was on the board when this got brought up originally, but are we going to do solar at all the facilities? I mean, where are they?
It was most of the facilities,
Okay.
and it's starting at the largest schools. We
Okay.
get more benefit. We obviously did not include Monroe. It had to be schools, so the
Right.
Sierra Vista Center ended up not being included. We were looking
And
at all
roof
of
mount
that.
or ground mount?
I'm sorry?
Is it roof mount or ground mount? I'm
I
sorry.
didn't-
Is it
It's a
roof-
ground
roof
mount
ground
over
mount?
the parking lot.
Okay.
So
So
it's,
it's going to be shade structured too?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's a
Yes.
carport, and that's why the rules
Okay.
are applying, because we're improving the parking lot.
Okay. And then I guess my other question is, the vehicles for charging, is that only for district vehicles or is it for public?
Typically, it's for public. We don't have the policies in place yet, so we would be working on all of that. But then when you plug it in, usually they
You
all,
pay.
you connect with your own accounts.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was for district vehicles or for public consumption.
They're going in the public parking lots.
Okay. Thank you.
I just comment, you answered questions that I had concerns with. So the maintenance, they said they're in charge of the maintenance?
Yes, in fact, they have budgeted in those costs. For example, there's a panel that has a useful life of 10 years, so they factored that in, that they know in 10 years they'll have to be replacing that panel. But they are on the hook for all the costs,
Of
operations,
any and all
maintenance,
maintenance.
repairs, everything, yes.
During the term of the contract.
During the term of the
During the
contract,
term of
yes,
which
for
is
that
a
20
long
years.
contract. So the only thing is I was just looking for the language of that, Because I,
That's going to be in the original
in the. okay.
contract, yes. And
Okay.
then this amendment is changing how many chargers there will be,
Got
and then
it.
those termination costs,
Okay.
and then that
Thank you.
cost per kilowatt hour, yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I was looking at page 2 of the amendment, it does list the sites, so Burroughs District Office, Fowler, Gateway, Mesquite, Sierra Vista. When we looked at some of the smaller schools, the usage wasn't as valuable, and so the cost to install was going to be higher. And so we prioritized it based on the savings at the time. Just a little bit more background, even earlier than what Jennifer was sharing, and some of you were on the board at the time. When this all came into play and we had this opportunity to get into an earlier phase, the district actually paid for access and worked with ARC to extend our timeline. And then Pam and I came to awareness of this around the time when all of this started and this contract, we shopped around, and the board had not previously considered this power purchase agreement. But part of the considerations at the time, and we did a whole workshop on it, was because we didn't want to get in the solar business. We don't have that current expertise, and we did not want to have to get a loan to pay for it all up front. This is no upfront cost. In fact, it's upfront savings as soon as it gets into play. And so when we looked at our priorities and the use of our funds, this was the best match, and the board ended up going that direction.
Any
a
further
quick
questions or
question.
comments, Mr. Campbell? Looks like you're,
Yeah, as Jennifer was talking, I was curious. I know that some people that have solar on their homes, sometimes have to have them cleaned just because of dirt and dust and all the wind we get in, Ridgecrest. Is that part of the deal where they'll come out and clean the, solar, panels at a certain amount of times per year?
That's a great question, because that is true. They do have to clean solar panels, and I don't have the answer to that, so I will have to follow up with both ARC and Luminace to make sure that is part of the operations cost. Because
Okay,
we don't
thank
want to
you.
touch it.
I also did want to clarify, the sites specifically do not include Murray and Richmond because they already have solar. So those were included in all new buildings, and especially like Buick and Pierce, those will be included in those building projects too. So there were some other considerations as well.
any further questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye, it's unanimous. We'll go ahead and adjourn the special concurrent meeting, go back into the regular meeting, move into item 12, business administration, 12.1, adoption of the 2025-26 local control accountability plan. Dr. Zafka.
As you're aware, this plan is annual. It's really a 3-year plan, but we analyze extensively with our educational partners, our data and our priorities, and then that's what shapes each iteration of the LCAP. And so this is another evening where this work comes to fruition. So as you're aware, we had our public hearing as required on May 28th, and then the board is required to hold another public hearing, but not on the same day, to adopt the LCAP. And that's what this evening is about. So we do have our district LCAP posted at all times, no matter what draft version is available. And so that's available on our LCAP and LCFF website for anybody to comment on. So there aren't any financial implications, and it's recommended that the 25-26 LCAP be adopted as presented.
Move recommend action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye, it's unanimous. Move on to item 12.2, adoption of the Sierra Sands Unified School District proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-2026. Jennifer.
Thank you. This time I am here to request adoption of the Sierra Sands Unified School District proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-2026. The background of this item is Education Code, Section 42127 requires that on or before July 1st of each year, the governing board will adopt a budget and file that budget with the county superintendent of schools. In accordance with the district's practice, guidance from School Services of California, the California Department of Education, the Kern County Office of Education, and the Fiscal Crisis and Management Assistance Team were used in formulating the proposed SSUSD 2025-26 budget. The notable changes to the governor's proposed budget that came in the May revision compared to the governor's budget in January include COLA to the local control funding formula, the LCFF, special education, and several other of the categorical programs outside of the LCFF. The COLA decreased from 2.43% to 2.3%. The federal title programs, it's projected that there will be cuts to some federal title programs, and so that was taken into consideration. CalPERS rate is decreasing from 27.05% to 26.81%. With all of these adjustments put into consideration, the district does continue to maintain the board's required reserve level of 5% in the current year and the 2 out years for the multi-year projection. It's noted that the state budget has not been finalized yet at the time of the preparation of the document. So once that legislative process is carried out, there may be changes to the budget, and that budget maintains positive certification and continues to remain fiscally solvent in 25-26 and the 2 out years. And it's recommended that the board adopt the proposed budget for the 2025-26 school year as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. Move on to 12.3, settlement payment for facilities alternatives for the Ridgecrest Elementary Academy of Language, Music, and Science.
Thank you. The background information for this item is Education Code Section 47614 and the regulations implementing the same, which is referred to as Proposition 39, govern charter schools in California, and Section 11969.1 sub B of those regulations provides that a charter school and a school district may mutually agree to an alternative to specific compliance with any of the provisions of the regulations. The district has had an agreement with Realms to pay an annual settlement in lieu of facilities since January 2014. Realms made a formal request for facilities for the 2025-26 school year, and the district has negotiated a settlement agreement with them. In exchange for a one-time $250,000 settlement payment, Realms agrees to waive any and all rights to request or use district facilities under Proposition 39 until the 2035-2036 school year. The cost of that agreement would be a one-time fee of $250,000 payable in fiscal year 2025-26, and our attorneys are still finalizing the language on that agreement. So it's recommended that once that language is prepared by our attorneys, that the board authorize the settlement. Let me say that backward. We're asking the board to authorize settlement of the agreement with Realms with that one-time payment for the school years 2025-26 through 2034-35, once the attorneys have finalized the language.
Move a recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We'll have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. Move on to 12.4, approval of annual contract renewals exceeding $15,000. Ms. Hayden?
Thank you. we're requesting approval of annual contract renewals exceeding $15,000. And it is in the interest of transparency and sound fiscal oversight that we're providing the board tonight with a summary of all the annual contract renewals that are valued at $15,000 or more for fiscal year 25-26. In that contract renewal list, we indicate the department that uses the contract, the vendor, the type of contract, if it's rate-based or a flat fee, the cost. If it's rate-based, the cost varies based on the number of hours used, or it's the flat fee, and then the funding source, general fund, is used several times, but there are restricted funds that will cover some of these contracts. And then just a description of what type of contract it is, whether it's a legal, financial services, the state preschool, all of that is listed. So, let me roll back. Okay. So, all listed renewals are incorporated into the adopted or proposed district budget for the relevant fiscal year. No additional appropriation is required as part of this item, but it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the annual renewals as presented.
Move the recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? Dr. Moore?
I have just a comment. So this is our first time with this particular approach. As you'll recall, usually in June, we have all of these as individual items, which takes a considerable amount of time for staff to compile, and they're just the automatic renewals. So we're changing this approach to streamline it, but keep as much transparency as possible. That's certainly our intent. In so doing, there are a couple of things that we've already learned in the last week since posting that didn't make the list. So we're anticipating bringing another list in July, but what we'll be doing is we'll bring just the updated ones in July, but we'll be adding to this bigger list so that annually, and as we were modeling our approach to the way some other districts do it, it becomes a consent item in future years, but we're trying to bring it this time in this new way and approach here. We'll catch up, we'll build that more complete list, and then perhaps next June, you'll see it on consent, and this will just be the way we do things.
No, and I appreciate that. I like how it's streamlined. It was nice to see the entirety of it, and it's just amazing. You forget how much, or how many different organizations, different law firms, the price of doing business as a school district, and it was just nice to see that entire list instead of individual, so thanks for doing that. Any further questions or comments from board, staff, or community?
I just have one. I mean, I appreciate this list, but it'd also be nice to see at the end of the fiscal year, those ones that say various fees for like law firms, how much we actually pay. Because, I mean, the cost of doing business is expensive, but you don't understand what it really costs to do business unless you see the number of what we're actually paying at the end of the year. So it'd be kind of telling to see how much we actually give all the law firms that protect us and support us. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? We have a motion and a second. Have a roll call vote. Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Ferris?
Aye.
Myself, aye, it's unanimous. We'll temporarily adjourn the regular meeting. We'll move into the Intercurrent Schools Financing Authority. Item number 1, adoption of the agenda. Any changes?
No changes?
Item 2, and the only thing on there is approval of minutes of the regular meeting of May 15th, 2025. Any corrections? Those minutes will stand. We'll adjourn the Intercurrent Schools Financing Authority meeting. Move back into the regular meeting. Item 14, consent calendar.
Hey, before I do that, can I go back to 12.3 where I asked for something? Does other board members would like that same information, or was that just me personally? Because if nobody else wants it, let's not have the staff do it.
I like it.
Okay. Okay, I just want to make sure we have consent of the board before I.
It would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
because going back, I had Dr. Moore, I made the comment about the agreement with Opportunities for Learning. That was a 14 or 17-page contract, I forget. I know the attorneys, I was thinking to myself, how much did we spend?
For 1%.
On that for 1%? Guaranteed, we're not making any
Yeah.
money, it's costing us money for this, so it'd be nice to see.
And I think the only question is how complicated is that to do?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I asked
I
the
mean,
question.
if it
I
gets too-
want to
yeah.
make sure that we're not
Yeah, if it's-
burdening the staff with some task
If it's
that's
a fairly simple.
not value added.
Punch a
So,
key and have a total, it's one thing. If it's- Yeah.
yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay, back to item 14, consent calendar.
I'll move the entire consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the consent calendar. Any questions or comments from board, staff, or community? Roll call vote, Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mrs. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Ferris.
Aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous. We will move on to item 15, future agenda. Any future agenda items?
Yes, I had one discussion, and we can also table it if you'd prefer, but there was some suggestion that we might want to have a board workshop over the summer just for our governance team, obviously an open session, to consider updating our governance handbook. Our retreat coming later really won't be about that particular topic, so wanted to float that to see if there was interest, and we could either then collaborate on a date now or separately. Wanted to check with the group.
So my personal opinion is I feel like it would be helpful. I don't know that we need to necessarily change it, but at least review it. We do have a new member, and it's interesting, he's not joining us, we become a new team. So I think it's important for us to at least review the handbook, and if we feel like we need to make changes, we can. I think the trick is going to be, when can we pull it off?
And I agree, Mr. Ferris. I think anytime we get together and update policies and anything else to make sure things are moving along, I'm open. I would like to do it daytime during the week if possible, instead of on the weekend, but that's whatever else, what everybody's agenda, schedules work out.
If we have a consensus that we want to do it, is it best to try and maybe just float some kind of a Survey Monkey or something rather than?
Yes.
So the question is, do we?
Yeah, consensus. Mr. Campbell, your thoughts?
Yeah, I just need to check my calendar to find out what's a good day. I like the idea, but I know I'm going to be gone a lot, so I just want to make sure that it's a day that obviously we can all be there.
And then we'll just go with the general concept. We'll worry about dates later. So if we have a consensus that is something we'd like to do, a workshop.
Is there, because we'll be here in July for the board meeting.
Not everyone.
Oh, not everyone, okay. Never mind.
Mr. Johnson?
I'm good.
You good?
Pick some
Mary, are you
dates.
good with the philosophy of the principle
Yeah.
of getting, okay?
Yes.
So we have general consensus, so we'll get together at a later time and start figuring out a date and time that works for the board and staff. So, any future agenda items? We'll move on to item 16, launch. It is our attitude at the beginning of a difficult task, which, more than anything else, will affect its successful outcome. That was by William James. Next item, adjournment. Next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be on July 17th. Enjoy the summer. It's starting to get warm out there.